Okay, the Golden Globes have just wrapped up. We've got an epic panel with us now. We've got Joyce, Riley Chow, Amanda Spears, Jack. Oh, Riley's not here, sorry. And Jack Fields. So we've got a lot of people in the lineup. Huge night for 3 billboards. That was surely the big story of the day. Tom, what are your initial reactions?
I was kicking myself. I had 3 billboards as my early winner of this, and I still have it at the Oscars winning. But I wimped out, and I listened to the sources I had heard, some of the consultants and others in the last week or so, and went with the Post. But the minute I saw early on in the show when both Sam Rockwell and Screenplay won, I was kicking myself saying, oh, God, I should have. But good old Chris Beecham, he stuck to his guns, and he owned up. You know, I'd come running back from my early sources before the nominations came out, going 3 billboards, everybody, 3 billboards. They really, 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 really like it, and then I let myself get talked out of it.
Yeah, Joyce, what did you think?
I am annoyed that I just switched out 3 billboards and Screenplay for Lady Bird today. So I'm annoyed about that. Like I never had it. I may have had it. No, I didn't. I always had the Post since nomination, so I never had it for film. So I'm less annoyed about that, but I switched out Screenplay today.
Do you think Joyce?
Yeah, but once like Sam Rockwell won and it won Screenplay, I was like, it's winning film.
Yeah.
I switched from Sam Rockwell to Christopher Plummer this morning, and I'm just like, I will not make last-minute changes. I will not make last-minute changes.
I had Sam Rockwell 2 weeks ago, and I ditched him for Plummer. Yeah, I know.
Really, Jack, what are your thoughts on the Billboards sweep? I guess it won 4 awards, which is
I mean, I'm just glad Guillermo del Toro still pulled off director, and then I think it's Frances McDormand's to lose as well. I still was holding out for Sally Hawkins because I just love that performance so much, but I feel like. I'm biasly in favor of Shape of Water. It's by far my favorite movie of the year. But I think after that SAG ensemble, after it lost out on SAG ensemble, and after seeing how well 3 billboards did tonight, I think Shape of Water is pretty well done, except for Del Toro.
Tom,
and then 3 billboards. I mean, I think it's going to do the SAG ensemble. I think it's got that in the bag as well. And between Golden Globe drama and SAG ensemble, I think it's well out in the front right now.
Tom, you always talk about how you think the Globes are a great audition for your Oscar speech, and people can sink or swim based on how they do at the Globes. Did you think anyone gave a particularly good audition for that Oscar stage tonight?
I have not seen the Golden Globes yet. And you've just outed me. I was trying to hide it. I'm out in Pennsylvania at my cabin in the woods, and I don't have cable TV here. I just have the internet. So I looked everywhere to try to stream it. I spent $600 a month for cable bills on 3 coasts. I somehow did not have television tonight. But I heard James Franco was really good. Reading the wonderful blog you ran, Amanda.
Yeah, and I thought Frances McDormand was fantastic too, and I think she is now going to be hard to take down for that Oscar prize.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you told me between Ronan and McDormand that McDormand would give the better acceptance speech, wouldn't have saw it coming. But yeah, I agree, and I think James Franco makes himself a real threat to take down Oldman, because he delivered. He was charming. He was sweet. He was personable. He was everything you wanted. And then
I am ready for Tommy Wiseau to become an Oscar-winning role. I don't think he'll win, but that's what I want.
Well, no one's ever won an Oscar for playing Winston Churchill, but no one's ever been nominated either. So,
Riley, what were your thoughts?
I thought the Golden Globes were a lot less cynical than I expected in their winners. Like I was predicting Gary Oldman and Frances McDormand to lose because of their relationship with the HFPA, because they're not schmoozing them. But they didn't do that. And also on the television side, I thought the winners were pretty nice.
Would you say, Tom, that Lady Bird had a good night or a bad night? It lost out screenplay, and we saw Metcalf got upset in supporting actress, but then it won Best Lead Actress, and it went on to win Best Comedy Picture. What do you think?
I know that's where we had talked about this at the pre-show, that we had learned from the consultants something accurate, which was there was this outsized love for I, Tonya among HFPA members. That turned out to be true. So early out in the evening, when Janny pulled it out, of course, I thought what I'm sure all of you thought, which is, oh no, that I, Tonya thing, the dam just burst, and now we're going to see this flood of awards for it. But it didn't happen, Matt, as you mentioned. It went to Saoirse and to the film. I think this keeps it in the running to win the Oscar for Best Picture in a terrific way. But boy, serious competition emerged tonight.
Yeah, I do think the great thing for Lady Bird was the attention placed by presenters in particular on the lack of a female director being nominated. And I think Oscar voters will be taking note of that. And I would be very surprised not to see Greta Gerwig nominated for an Oscar because of Natalie Portman's comment about the all-male director nominees.
The look on their faces was my favorite moment of the evening. Like, we get it. They're just man-shamed. Like,
and I do think that will actually... So I think tonight, whether it was a good night and wins or not for Lady Bird, it's a bit half glass, half empty, or half full. But I think in terms of the spotlight that was put on Greta Gerwig and a real sort of, as the voice of that film and the driving force behind it, I think is going to put in a very good position as we head into the Oscar Derby. And I think that's... I think it's going to have been a good night for it in terms of its attention. Joyce, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like it was just kind of a wash for Lady Bird. You know, it lost supporting actress, but I don't think that means like Laurie is completely out of it. Like, I think she can still win SAG and she can still win the Oscar. So, but I think, I think Greta's in for directing at the Oscars for sure.
Yeah.
And I still have Lady Bird winning Best Picture right now at the Oscars because I feel like that's the most agreeable film who will get a lot of 2s and 3s on the ballot.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. What do you think, Amanda?
Nothing will make me happier than seeing Greta Gerwig nominated for director. But, you know, I think that maybe Janny just had a bigger Golden Globe IOU. She's been nominated 5 times and lost on the TV side, and that's Catch-All Race. And Metcalf has only been nominated twice, and we really don't know SAG Awards-wise what they'll do because Metcalf was only ever nominated as part of the ensemble for Roseanne once. She only got 1 shot at it. So it's going to be interesting. I think the SAG Awards will decide it ultimately, but at least we've got some drama in... at least we've got some drama in the supporting actress race and not supporting actor for change. And I just love the 2 TV vets going at it. But I do think Lady Bird still could win. It just needs the directing and an editing nomination. And Natalie Portman did her the biggest favor of the night. And good for her.
Yeah.
And Barbara Streisand didn't hurt that either. So,
Jack,
they let Greta speak when Lady Bird won.
That was very smart of the producers to let her do it.
Yes, that was. I noticed that too.
Jack, who do you think's now in the Oscar hot seat? Allison Janney or Laurie Metcalf?
Well, in terms of who I think gives the better performance, I would go with Allison Janney. In terms of who's more likely to win, you know, if Lady Bird gets the love from the Academy that I think it very well could, I think Laurie Metcalf might be the front runner. I think SAGs are gonna be very revealing about that. On the other hand, I feel like they want to give I, Tonya something, right? I'm not quite sure who I would put. Right now, go ahead.
Is it based on a book? It could win adapted screenplay.
I Tonya's original.
I Tonya? No.
Oh.
Yeah, I Tonya's original.
I can't read the credits without my glasses. So.
Riley, you're always so good at calling long shots and things. Did you have one category, TV or film tonight, that you went out on a limb and it worked out well?
I mean, I would say that the changes I made this week definitely did not pay off. However, I did have 3 billboards, so I'm one of the 11%. I guess we did.
What you had it for picture?
Yeah.
Really? What was your thinking there?
Well, it got all those nominations, and I think it's winning the Oscar as well.
Wow.
I think what we learned tonight is if you give a great acceptance speech at an award show, it's not going to do you any good at another award show. Because we've seen David Harbour, we've seen Meryl Streep, who
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, it's not going to win you another award. Because I picked Meryl, I'll admit it. I picked Meryl Streep thinking that she was, they were going to want her back up on that stage. But I've learned my lesson from that. But yeah, you and McGregor.
That's all. That's all that needs.
I do think, though, there is a difference between a speech that was delivered a year ago and a speech that was delivered a couple of months ago. Like, Oscar voters at the moment have ballots in hand while these speeches at the Globes are being delivered. Whereas Meryl Streep's speech from last year was impactful, but it was 12 months ago that she gave it. Yeah. Tom, was there anything you were particularly shocked by or thought it was a big take-home that we haven't touched on yet?
You haven't seen Ansari's speak yet, have you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had him early on, and I ditched him for Will McCormick. I did, I fell for that, and there were a lot of logical reasons to go with McCormick, especially given the fact that Aziz lost last year, right? So, he won for writing, but not for.
Well, he won the Emmy. He's won the
Emmy.
Oh, that's right. He won. That's right. Thank you for that clarification. But I don't know, Joyce. We haven't heard enough from you.
Yes.
Jump in here.
About Aziz. Well, I had Eric McCormick. So, but I guess like in retrospect, Aziz makes sense. Like they decided to take care of broadcast NBC with Sterling.
Right.
And then they took care of Netflix with Aziz. And last time Aziz he was nominated 2 years ago for the first season, and they didn't nominate the show, but they nominated the show this time, which is very rare for them to nominate the show after ignoring it for the first season. So I think that was a sign that they were ready to give him the prize.
Yeah. I think Master of None was... Sorry. I was going to say Master of None was a bit hotter this year, I think, than it was for the first season, too. It was a bit
And it was in Italy.
Yeah.
Therefore.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Jack, what was the race that had your jaw hit the floor the most tonight?
The race? Just the dominance of 3 billboards. I mean, I like the movie. I don't love it as much as so many, obviously, the HFPA seems to.
And they got Moonlight right last year. There may have been some of us, including me, going, "Oh, Moonlight." I'm not sure I buy that whole alternative thing, and of course was proved wrong. And if we look back at what happened to La La last year at the Globes, it went 7 for 7, and not only set the record, it went undefeated. The Rings, Return of the King at the Oscars, going undefeated, while setting a record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to know what happens at Critics' Choice later in the week, and then I want to know. I wanted to know the Directors Guild nominations for sure. I think that's going to be very telling.
Yeah, we saw The Shape of Water take home 2 wins. It won Best Director, a big award, and it won Best Score. Joyce, where do you think that's positioned as we look down the Oscar Derby now? Do we write it off because Hawkins and Picture weren't able to win, or has it still got some life in it?
I mean, I think it's going to make its best killing in the below the line categories. I still think Del Toro can win director just because in recent years they've been going with the technical achievement, which is what that is. And I know like Christopher Nolan is in there too, but it feels like Shape of Water would be the one they would award over Dunkirk. And I think it's going to be a split this year. Like I can see Shape of Water winning Best Picture, but I think it's going to be Del Toro for director and maybe Lady Bird or even Get Out or Three Billboards picture. I think I have Shape at like 4th or something right now.
Well, I was a bit outraged tonight that Get Out was Shutout.
Yes,
right.
That too. Yes. Wow.
No, I thought should have won lead actor. I sort of maybe get the picture lost because I'm not sure if it is quite a comedy. And I guess the writing may have been on the wall for it when it missed out on that screenplay and director nomination. But I was...
oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, the one thing that I found odd was we saw the presenters of the film, like half were were stars of the film, and then half were just other celebrities introducing them. And I think it needs to be one way or the other. But I was just sitting there watching Get Out. I'm like, where's Keegan-Michael Key? Like, where is he that he couldn't, like, come and, like, give a that a boy kind of to Peel? Like, I don't know. To me, that just kind of seemed like the one that was a little weird.
Yeah. And I'm sure if Chris Beecham were here, he would be pointing out that they should not have had Emma Stone presenting Steve Carell's category. For
it was just weird how they did that because they had, I mean, you know, usually they have like the previous winner present the opposite sex, and you know.
Yeah, where was Ryan Gosling tonight?
Yeah, it was like they obviously they went a different way this year with like the joint presenters for most categories, but it was weird that they still kept Emma for comedy musical actor, but they didn't for Isabelle Huppert, and I'm so pissed at them because she could have presented drama actor and pronounced Timothée Chalamet the correct way.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah,
that would have been. Yeah.
I noticed the same thing about the co-presenters. Like, I felt it was weird to have Shirley MacLaine and Emma Stone together. I was like, I love both of those people, but why are they presenting this award in that category? I would love to ask the producers about that choice. Like, go ahead. Oh.
Who knows? Hey, Riley, what did you think we learned from the about the Oscars today and PGA so far? How are we smarter now than we were 3-4 days ago?
Well, I said in the pre-show that I was predicting Margot Robbie to win here and at the Oscars, and that if she lost here, then I would take her out. So I'll just go back to the prediction I had a week ago, which is for Frances McDormand. That applause that she got, that was something. I was almost expecting a standing ovation there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lost to Madonna, finally won the hardest category of the evening. Good for her. Like, she had to sit there and lose to Madonna. So she deserves every clap of that applause.
I can't believe Mary J. Blige lost both of her nominations. Mary J. Blige, you know, if they'll give a Golden Globe to Lady Gaga, for God's sake, you can give one to Mary J. Blige. All right already?
I'm with you on that one, Tom. Really super mad about that.
And we saw some sort of somewhat like surprises in those lower categories for film. In the Fade film winning Best Foreign Language Film, no one was predicting that.
It has 63 on Metacritic.
Blige might be the other. What, sorry?
I said it had 63 on Metacritic.
There you go. So, yeah.
So they like Diane Kruger more than they like Angelina Jolie. That's what we learned.
Well, they always go their own way, or usually go their own way for foreign film. So that's I don't think we learn anything about the Oscars here in that case. No.
And on the TV side, a huge night for Big Little Lies that just continued its run through the awards. Yeah, I really like that series. It won everything, I think. It got nominated for.
I think what we learned is we're probably going to see an upset at the SAG Awards in the limited series actress race. Personally, when I saw that, when Laura Dern won, I'm like, ooh, this is bad news for Nicole Kidman and Laura Dern. They're going to cancel each other's out.
I think they'll still give it to Nicole there. Like, she's like the face of that show, and she's never won a SAG. I don't know how many people know that in SAG, but she's never won, and it's her 10th nomination. I think she's just going to end up being one of those sweepers for TV that we see all the time, like Sarah Paulson and Kate Winslet and Julianne Moore.
I'm just trying to stir the pot.
I like
maybe it's Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
They do
I like
love
how they
her.
awarded Aziz Ansari and Sterling K. Brown. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm going to sign off. I'll continue on, Riley. and bring in whoever you want to bring in next. Thanks for everything.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Tom. Put a few more logs on the fire for us. Okay, so what were you saying, Riley? Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that I've been convinced at this point that Sterling K. Brown and Aziz Ansari, they were on shows that were too old, even though one was only a year and a half old, but not the case. So it turns out the Golden Globes, they do stick around with the shows for more than a year. So.
Whereas on the other side of the coin, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, a very new show, wasn't even eligible for the Emmys 5 months ago, was able to take out series and best lead actress for Rachel Brosnahan.
That seems more like
thoughts? Yeah. What are your thoughts, Amanda? You seem very excited.
I love Gilmore Girls. I've said that like 3 million times on one of these things. So to finally see Amy Sherman-Palladino get the respect she deserves, the award she deserves, the backing from Amazon that she deserves. I wish they would have cut to frickin' Alexis Bledel. That was my biggest problem with the way the show was produced. Was like, Ewan McGregor wins. Cut to Frances McDormand. Amy Sherman-Palladino finally wins. Cut to Alexis Bledel and show her smiling. Where are these people? I'm sorry, but I was so happy to see it. Rachel Brosnahan, love that show. Best comedy writing, Amy Sherman-Palladino. That's the only thing I want to see at the Emmys so far this year.
Yeah. And really great for Rachel Brosnahan, who'd done some great work on House of Cards and Manhattan, like sort of that didn't get a whole lot of attention, to now be a Golden Globe winner for Best Lead Actress.
She had an Emmy nomination, so it's not like she didn't have any attention.
Yeah, well, she got a little bit of attention, but she wasn't the centerpiece of that series. It's not like everyone was saying, like, she's the show, but in Mrs. Maisel, she is. Joyce, was there anything on the TV side that you were particularly wowed by? I thought was interesting.
I'm actually working on a post right now. I just couldn't believe that they basically awarded all the Emmy winners where they could.
Yeah.
Like all the people who didn't win Emmys, like they weren't eligible, like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and stuff, and Atlanta obviously wasn't eligible this time around, and they awarded it last year anyway.
Yeah.
They won Emmys in September.
Yeah. It's a really good point.
I don't think they've ever done that before.
Yeah, I was like just doing research, and I only look back to the Sweep years with John Adams and Angels in America, and even then, like, but in the regular series, they still did their own thing with like Anna Paquin for True Blood.
Yeah, like Thornbirds won 4. I mean, it just puts Big Little Lies into this very elite.
That's why I went with Jessica Biel, because I was like, I didn't know what to do for the supporting categories, because so I just played it safe with Skarsgård and Dern. But I was like, Nicole can still get a Globe with a Big Little Lies winning Limited, and I just did not think they would just duplicate all the winners.
And yeah, that's because the Globes have a very different MO than the Emmys, where they award a lot newer stuff and don't repeat themselves as much, as well as the eligibility periods are different too. Yeah. So sometimes you just got different shows competing against each other and things. So that is a really interesting observation.
The Globes do sometimes award performances that the Emmys miss too. Like I was looking for an alternative to Alexander Skarsgård, and like recently in that category, they awarded Matt Bomer, they awarded Ed Harris, they awarded Hugh Laurie. Variably over, like directly over the people who beat them at the Emmys. But not the case this time.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon did that too. He ironically beat somebody who played Winston Churchill to bring it full circle.
There you go.
Right.
So that's the end of the chat. Okay.
29 losses. Like if I was from Will and Grace and they do another season, I wouldn't even bother showing up. Like save yourself the trouble of getting dressed for this.
It's lucky number 30. That's what they're waiting for.
It's like, okay, here we go. Best actor. And I'm like waiting for Will McCormick. And then I'm like, ooh. Like, how do I spell this? Let me check. Nope.
I might invite our next panelist, Zach Laws, Charles Bright, Daniel Montgomery, and Tony, if you want to come in too, that'd be great. You guys stay on until they're here, because then I'm just on my own.
That would be fun to watch, but probably not for you.
Yeah.
What did everybody
I
think
don't think
of
that's fun
Oprah?
for anyone. I don't think anyone just wants to watch me on my own. So, Jack, what was the win you were happiest about tonight?
The win that I was happiest about? Probably Del Toro. Guillermo del Toro winning Best Director. I loved his speech. I love his movie so much. He seems like just a wonderful person, and he's a great artist. That was my high point for sure. It was Del Toro for director, and his reference to Lon Chaney at the very end was just I loved it. And there was one small instance during the show where we got a very brief but very direct shot of Barbra Streisand's right profile, and I thought that was pretty darn amazing.
Joyce, what would be your takeaway for this evening?
3 Billboards. I did not expect it to do that well, and with the SAG reception to it, with Woody's nomination there, like I'm tempted to put him in my Oscar predictions now.
Amanda, what's your takeaway for the evening?
I agree. 3 Billboards tentatively appears to be the front runner, but they probably are going to try and proceed with caution. And as I said off air, I think that at the SAG Awards, Peter Dinklage will be 3 Billboards' 4th acting win, upsetting Sterling K. Brown.
Okay, bold prediction. And Riley, what's your big takeout out from today?
Well, I think you should all get on the 3 Billboards train with me. I would look out for the BAFTA nomination, see if Woody Harrelson gets in there. Not because it'll say anything about his Oscar chances, but you know, double supporting actors doesn't happen very often. It did happen at BAFTA for both Crash and No Country for Old Men. They didn't achieve that feat again at the Oscars, but both of them won Best Picture.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much, Amanda, Riley, and Joyce for your insight and analysis.
I'm sorry.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah. Thank you so much. If you guys would mind closing your windows, and we'll get our thoughts from Tony, Charlie, and Daniel. That'd be good. Daniel Montgomery, what are your thoughts?
I really love the solidarity with women, but next year, I gotta say it, I want to see some Black Lives Matter pins on some lapels, because Get Out wins 0 awards and Racist Cop with a Heart of Gold wins 4. And as you know, a lot of people have, I can't not say it at this point, with 4 Golden Globe wins. I have issues with that. And that particular mixed message it sends in this particular year of solidarity, it kind of left a sour taste at the end of the night. I won't lie.
No, it's fair enough. What do you think, Zach?
You know what? I actually I switched my prediction at the last minute from Lady Bird to Get Out, and I'm starting to think it was a bit of wishful thinking on my part. Especially considering what Daniel said about the 4 wins for 3 Billboards, including the one for Sam Rockwell, which, I mean, quality of the movie aside, and there's a lot of good in the movie, but it is very problematic in the ways that it deals with racism. All the things that it deals with very well. Yeah, it nevertheless deals very problematically with that. And it is kind of...
And it won the writing award, I should mention, over Greta Gerwig.
Yes, and over many other movies as well. I mean,
yeah, there are 3 movies with female writers.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's just really odd to have this movie that deals so well with race in America, and especially it feels so prescient to today. Win nothing at the Golden Globes, and this film that, like I said, does a lot of things right, but does not deal very well with the issues of racism in America and racism in our police force. Having that be the most awarded film of the night, and I mean, like you said, no wins for Greta Gerwig. It's just sort of, it feels weird. Doesn't feel very triumphant.
Yeah, I just feel like the Golden Globes want to do a victory lap of like back patting, and they need to check that urge this year.
Yeah, I think like it is interesting that you had one of the most critically acclaimed screenplays of the year was for Jordan Peele nominations. One of the most critically acclaimed directorial achievements of this year, Greta Gerwig, not nominated for Best Director. And maybe those two snubs are telling in the wins that we saw of Greta Gerwig losing screenplay and Get Out being shut out. Yeah.
I just want to say, I mean, real quick, and this is not a knock at any of the 5 gentlemen who were nominated for directing this evening, at least 4 of which who definitely deserve to be there. But perhaps I wonder if Oscar voters were listening to Natalie Portman's remark there about the 5 men who were nominated and the 5 white men.
Genius.
Yeah. So perhaps, hopefully, the director's branch of the Academy was paying attention to that, as they are.
And it was so perfectly timed, I think, just because how do you follow that Oprah speech and you go with best directors? He's talking about, women, Me Too, time's up. And then Natalie Portman has to present a Golden Globe to one of 5 exclusively male directors. And then they bring out Barbara Streisand at the end, and they pat themselves on the back for the fact that she's the only woman who has won a Golden Globe. Everyone in there is cheering like, no, wait, this is a problem with the Hollywood Foreign Press that they've only given one to her.
When they said that, I was like, oh yeah, highlight that part, right? That she's the only one, and that was over 30 years ago. Greta Gerwig was born the year that she won Best Director. So.
Like, that's true.
Yeah.
It's my gut tells me that the comment about Greta Gerwig by Natalie Portman might be one of the most impactful things from the Globes on the Oscar race with ballots in hand, because I think she's got to get nominated now. And who knows if that can't be part of a Lady Bird surge, in which case because it's in the mix for Best Picture, Lady Bird. Mm-hmm. There is no film that is taking this race away. So, Charles, we haven't heard from you yet. What are your big takeaways? What are your big thoughts coming off a big night of wins and upsets at the Golden Globes?
Not as many upsets as I'm usually used to seeing at the Globes, so I'm kind of a little disappointed by that. I want jaw-dropping on the floor, what in God's name are you thinking upsets, and we got a couple of the, especially one with In the Fade winning foreign film, but it was kind of as expected. The ceremony was fun. I thought Seth Meyers did not a bang-up job, but I thought he did a decent job. Anything is better than Jimmy Fallon was last year, as I have said. Also, this red folder is looking to host next year, so I really hope that agents put out the call for it. It's weird because I loved 3 Billboards when I saw it. And ever since I talked to you, Daniel, see, this is why conservatives hate people like us, because we ruin things for everybody else. You've got me thinking more about it, and I still like the movie, but I definitely see those problems with it a lot more clearly, and it's hard to distinguish, what I like about the movie with these really big problems that are dealt with in the movie. But I loved Frances McDormand winning. Oh my God, she does not care about anything. I mean, that's always been her attitude, but God, tonight she was on fire. And I cannot wait.
And I think the censors were drunk. Because they kept bleeping the wrong words in her speech. And they missed the one curse.
No, it reminded me of when Eminem was performing at the Grammys and the censors just couldn't keep up. They kept on bleeping out the wrong parts. But I adored her speech. I was a big fan of seeing Tommy Wiseau up on the stage, but I love how when he tried to grab the microphone, James was like, no. I know where this is going, and it's nowhere good.
Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
no, go ahead, Charlie.
No, I was done. Go on.
Oh, darn. I was trying to lose the Nasty Woman title.
You're never going to lose that, baby. You're never going to lose that. You're always my Nasty Woman, baby.
I have a lot, I also, separate from Daniel, saw 3 Billboards and had issues with it. But that being said, I want Frances McDormand to win because I want to see what speech she gives from the Oscar stage, because that speech was so good. And one of the things that I loved was that she goes up on stage and she, kisses Isabelle Huppert, and she kisses, who was the other one that presented?
Angelina, is it Angelina Jolie?
Yeah, it might have been Angelina Jolie, but she actually specifically went out of her way to shake hands with The Rock's daughter, who was the Golden Globe ambassador. I just thought that was a really nice thing. It's like, no, you're not just here to give out trophies and look pretty. You have value. She was so good. The Oprah speech, just I can't. I can't. Oprah just to bring the audience to its feet not once but twice. Mid-speech.
In the middle of it.
Yeah. God help the person that wins the Cecil B. DeMille Award next year, because you have Streep and then you have Oprah. What's the next year's person? This is becoming a thing.
It will have to be the literal second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
As I've always put out the for your consideration section, Mel Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a Jew who doesn't get his due. I think that makes him kind of the second coming of Christ.
Sure, why not?
And even Mel Brooks and Jesus would look in the audience and be, "Oh my goodness, it's Oprah."
Oprah.
Yeah, I thought that was just that speech was fantastic. I thought Seth Meyers was fantastic. I thought he was, again, a continuous problem with the Globes is that even when you have a host that does a great opening bit, the show is not paced well throughout. So, and part of that has to do with the fact that they put all the TV people, in a separate zip code, and it takes them 25 minutes to walk up to the stage. So by the time they get to the stage, it's already overtime. And you heard several presenters saying things like, "Oh, well, we're over time," or "Well, we're over time." They tried to play off Guillermo del Toro. So
what they should do is they should present it in an auditorium with 2 stages, one on either side. And so whenever you have a TV categories, there's a mechanism that turns all the chairs in the direction so that, the TV people are closer to their stage, and then turn it back around and the film people are closer to their stage. Whoever designs the chairs on The Voice, just put that together.
Yeah.
But I will say that I stuck with Nicole Kidman winning, and the fact that that was the first one of the night, and I said, nope, I am not going with this Jessica Biel nonsense. And I was like, thank you.
Oh my God.
That's the one thing I wanted to also point out. My last minute switch, I gave into all this bullshit that everyone was saying about Eric McCormack. Matt, I should have stood in solidarity with you about Aziz Ansari.
Matt.
Oh God, I felt like such a moron, or to those who do not like me, even more of a moron than usual. I was I was punching myself.
You're not the only one who did it, Charlie.
Don't worry. All the other Gold Derby editors were morons too. So it's you've got like
evidence that the buddy system does not work.
I did go out on my own. I did make one last minute change that I was pretty proud of. It's the only one I was proud of. It was when Alice and Janney won.
Oh, there you go.
Like, I just sort of figured that, we have to remember that the Hollywood Foreign Press is 90 people, and you only need about 25 votes to win. So that's just like a couple more hands you have to shake and a couple more pictures you have to take. And I mean, as far as I can tell, I've seen Alice and Janney out and about. really working for this. And Laurie Metcalf hasn't done that much. I mean, she's been busy with Roseanne. I think that really helped her. And I think Laurie Metcalf has a real threat here to her Oscar in Allison Janney. It's the battle of the TV titans here at the Oscars.
And Janney gave I thought a really, really great speech.
Yes.
You know, before McDormand's speech, Janney's speech was almost my speech of the night. She was both just excited and she thanked the people that she needed to thank. But that stuff that she said with Tanya Harding there in the audience about not just, you know, sexism, but also classism, really struck a chord. And you saw the camera cut to all these different people who were like nodding their heads. And you've got Octavia Spencer who going, yeah, you go. Of course, they're friends. But yeah, I think Janney really helped herself tonight. And I do think it's going to come down to her versus Metcalf. And so we'll have to see what happens going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Critics' Choice is coming up. So nothing that happened tonight, I don't think, can affect their winners. So maybe Laurie Metcalf wins that. The thing to remember also is that this is our first televised award ceremony. And so this is your first tryout for the Oscars. And so if Laurie Metcalf wins at the Critics' Choice, she better give one hell of a good speech if she wants to defend that Oscar against Allison Janney.
Yeah, and SAG will be interesting, I think, with that race because both of them, again, television titans. They've worked with everybody. They're respected both for their work in film and television and the theater. And I think that showdown at SAG could really tell us a lot. Yeah.
We've got some of the chats coming in on our YouTube channel. Ben G says he doesn't know about Janney. Remember Keaton won with Birdman and had a great speech but lost everything after. Lida Quiznos, Quiroz says, I think Janney will win, but how wonderful will it be if she becomes an Oscar-winning actress? So there's some different thoughts being thrown our way through that chat room. Some people think, nah, she probably can't do it. Others thinking she could win the Oscar. Daniel, what do you think? Can Janney win the Oscar now?
She can. It'll come down to SAG because I feel like Laurie Metcalf is a pretty safe bet for Critics' Choice. She's much more the critics' pick for and Lady Bird is between Lady Bird and I, Tonya is the much more critically favored film. It's hard to know. I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea of the Oscar audition. I don't think a somewhat boring speech will necessarily hurt you. Like if they like your performance, if you go up and say something like really horrifying, like Hitler had some good ideas, then maybe you lose an Oscar that way. Or you throw a phone at someone backstage, then of course, as we know, you lose an Oscar that way. But if you're reading from a piece of paper and you're a little bit kind of uneventful and you're not Oprah, I think they'll still give you the Oscar if they're into your performance.
Yeah, I think thanking Harvey Weinstein would have been the final nail in a coffin for any winner tonight, but of course none of them did that.
Yeah, was anybody else surprised that it seemed like Seth Meyers went after Kevin Spacey harder than he went after Harvey Weinstein?
Oh no!
He said Harvey Weinstein will. Yeah, he said Harvey Weinstein will get booed in his in memoriam.
That was the most uncomfortable joke of the night. But I was dying, and I thought it was completely appropriate, considering. Remember, and Matt, we were both at the Emmys. We remember that. Yeah. We remember during the in memoriam reel, they did choose to put in Roger Ailes, the former CEO of Fox News, who was forced out in a sexual harassment scandal. Which was a climate that he fostered since founding that network more 22 years ago. And they didn't boo, which I was very surprised about. But the silence in that room, in the Microsoft Theater, was unbelievable. And
I heard some murmurs of unease, is what I was hearing. I feel like,
you could feel it in there. And I thought it was a brilliant joke. I was surprised that as many people did the oof thing as they did, but it wasn't one where he got booed. I think they were surprised he went there. But I think that's like a mic drop moment, for him.
Yeah.
And somewhere up in hell that night, Roger Ailes was looking up and smiling. Just
along with Johnny Cochran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that I completely just loved like Myers coming out in that opening monologue, and I thought that line that he had about how every host of a future award show was going to watch him and see what to do. I thought that was so, first of all, true, because this is really the first televised award show of this scope that, in the face of all of this stuff going on, and I was certainly going into the night wondering how exactly he was going to approach it. And I thought he just handled it so brilliantly. It was funny and biting and still towed the line between, being really sharp, but still not bringing the mood down. And I thought that the cap of it, with all that stuff about it, it was almost like he was preemptively, putting up, the guard against those people that say, oh, you're just a bunch of Hollywood elites. And he's like, no, the people in Hollywood, these are the majority of the people that work in Hollywood, the people that work behind the scenes in grueling hours and don't get the attention that a select few get. And I just thought the way that he handled that was so well done. I really, which made his absence over the rest of the show that much more, I think, jarring for me, because I thought he opened the show so strongly.
Oh,
I really loved one segment that he did, especially that I was going to mention this in the pre-show, but I forgot. Like, I was really hoping he does the jokes Seth can't tell with members of the audience, and he absolutely did that. I was like, oh, he got my mental note at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy Poehler is still wonderful.
I would say his comment about working, that most of the people who work in film and television that I work with are not elites, but regular working people, would have more power at an Oscars or an Emmys, where you actually have nominees from the craft categories. It's a very celebrity full room, which isn't true of all Hollywood award shows. So there was a bit of me that was like, yeah, let's give ourselves a clap for working with regular people.
I actually think that actually makes the statement stronger, because because that discrepancy is more on display at the Globes, because it is something that doesn't really go into craft beyond, acting, writing, and directing, and music. So I think that actually made it more powerful and made the point more prescient.
And I mean, in all fairness to him, it's not as if he can choose the categories that the Golden Globes are going to be presenting. You know what I mean? I'm sure that
not yet.
If he were, not yet. Yeah. If he were able to host the Oscars or the whatever, then I think it would have been possibly more impactful. But again, I mean, we have no way of knowing, because he's hosting the Golden Globes and he doesn't have a choice over that.
Yeah, and I thought he was a very good host. I'm not trying to say I didn't think his hosting was good. Of course. Okay, here's something I want to talk about for a second, and I'll throw it to you, Daniel. Is Get Out, Shutout tonight, does it still have a path to winning at the Oscars? And if so, what is that? It
certainly does. Industry people, the Golden Globes are an important kind of stepping stone in terms of visibility, but the 90 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press don't really tell us anything substantial about the actual Academy, and so far it's looking pretty decent for Get Out on the industry side. It's swept most, if not all, Guild nominations, including important ones like editing, the Screen Actors Guild. Production. I think got it for contemporary art direction. I mean, it's kind of momentum where you see a film popping up, not necessarily because it's the most superb production design, but because it's a contemporary film with production design that the industry really likes, and you're seeing that pattern happen across the board. So I think those are actually more important than the Globe losses. And you know, of course, Spotlight was shut out at the Golden Globes 2 years ago. So it's not necessarily indicative of that film's fortunes.
Yeah,
and also too, I mean, like,
think about with when we go into the Oscars, we're talking about the preferential ballot, and I think what we've seen over the course of the last several years is when there's a film that is universally beloved, precursors don't necessarily figure into as much, because if it just gets enough of those top tier votes, then it could still win. So I think it'll be interesting to see what it does at all the upcoming guilds. I think Critics' Choice could be really good for it, because that was certainly a film that hit big with critics very early on, and critics have a very long memory when it comes to stuff like this. So that could help it pick up some momentum.
I'll say too, I mean, part of the reason why I switched my prediction to it at the last minute was because, you know, Lady Bird has been performing as well as we've expected it to. Get Out, I think, has been performing better. I mean, I think everyone expected it to get in at the Writers Guild, certainly, but the fact that it got in for SAG Ensemble and for Daniel Kaluuya, the fact that it got in for the Editors Guild and the Art Directors Guild, I think it's, and the Producers Guild, of course. I totally expect Jordan Peele to get in at the Directors Guild, not just in First Time Director, but in the 5 Best Director lineup. It's been overperforming, you know, and there has been this sort of groundswell of support for it lately. Whether or not that translates into an Oscar Best Picture win, I don't know. But it does seem to have more momentum going for it than I think people anticipated.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And can I say, like, the Screen Actors Guild Ensemble nominees are probably my favorite crop of nominees I've seen in that category in a while. And did any of the awards this year, I was really pleased with all 5 of those casts that got in there. Okay, we're going to wrap up in a couple minutes, guys. So what is something, we'll go through each of you, something you want to talk about that you think was really interesting, maybe we haven't got a chance to touch on yet tonight. Tony.
God, I was afraid you were going to come to me first.
It's just going left to right on my screen.
Thanks. It surprised me that The Post got completely shut out. I really did expect that film to do better. I don't know what that bodes for its chances going forward, but I certainly don't think it's as strong of a player as maybe some of us thought it might be.
I think also The Post could struggle with the Oscars with the preferential ballot. Like, I'm not sure if it's going to have the sort of passion that maybe Call Me By Your Name or Get Out or Lady Bird or Three Billboards sort of has. So especially outside of Best Picture where there's 10 nominees, I think it could really struggle. Like, I could see someone like a Tom Hanks just missing out, or a Meryl Streep just missing out, or a Steven Spielberg just missing out there.
Yeah, I can see The Post performing on par with A Bridge of Spies. You know, I've always been skeptical about it being, you know, because it felt like a really solid film, like kind of an old-fashioned film in the way that Bridge of Spies did, and Bridge of Spies did really well. It was respected by everybody, but it ultimately didn't light anybody's fire in terms of really winning top Oscars, other than, of course, Mark Rylance for supporting actor. So I think The Post will do pretty well. I think it's pretty safe for like a Best Picture nomination. I think Spielberg is probably on the bubble for director, and maybe it'll get like a handful here or there, but it might be capped at maybe 4, 5, 6 nominations, kind of like size.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So it's like The Post to me seems like a bit of an Oscar paint by numbers sort of thing, like Steven Spielberg directing, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep starring about an important political issue. Like, and it's almost like unfairly hurt by that, almost, that people going in sort of know that it's going to be good. And if it's not their favorite movie of the year, they'll think it's disappointing. And I do feel like we often have films like that, whereas a Lady Bird, no one sort of when they first hear about it, going, "Oh, that's going to be this year's big Oscar player." So when they see it, they're just charmed by it.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me of, I forgot one of my favorite jokes of the evening when Seth Meyers is introducing, like, you know, the Post and describing it, and then a woman comes out carrying like an armful of Golden Globes, and he's like, "No, wait, we have to wait and see what happens," which in hindsight is really kind of cruel, because that woman was carrying 4 Golden Globes, and they all went to 3 Billboards.
I love the look on Spielberg's face after that joke happened.
I was shocked that it didn't win anything, and I actually predicted it would win Best Film and nothing else, just because I figured there was no way they were going to have Steven Spielberg, Meryl Streep, and Tom Hanks make a movie, show up at their award ceremony, and not win anything, like nothing at all.
Yeah, I was actually pretty confident after ironically, I was confident after Frances McDormand won that The Post was going to win Best Film, because it was the only thing left it could win, and they'd spread the wealth everywhere else.
And I thought that actually, when I saw Barbara Streisand's reaction, I actually thought that she saw The Post in that envelope.
I did too. I can't believe she got that excited over 3 Billboards. Like, what in the world?
She hasn't seen it.
Yeah. All movies about very dated forms of communicating, billboards and newspapers. What?
I just want to.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I just want to say one of my last minute switches was actually that I'm proud of. I want to brag about Best Screenplay. I put 3 Billboards in my #1 slot just a couple hours before the ceremony. Before that, I had The Post in there, and before that, I had Lady Bird. And this was a really up for grabs category. And I just sort of thought that there would be this big love for 3 Billboards, but, you know, not in picture. And I also never bought I almost switched with Christopher Plummer, but I kept Sam Rockwell in my #1 spot and put Armie Hammer at #2. And I was really glad I did that. And I will now reap all of your praise for keeping those predictions.
Fantastic. Daniel, what's your last sort of thought or thing you want to talk about?
Mainly I want to see Hollywood do better immediately. So Oscars, I want to see Greta and Jordan Peele in Best Director.
Yeah.
If they want to throw in Dee Reese, go ahead. I'm cool with that too. You know, I want to see you know, those films do better in terms of the nominations than they did here, because while Hollywood is symbolically patting itself on the back, they could actually do better, like right now.
Yeah, could I add The Big Sick to that as well as a film
absolutely.
that was completely absent today with nominations, not just wins.
Yep.
But it got a SAG Ensemble nomination, so I think there's still a lot of hope for The Big Sick doing well with Oscars.
Can I just add one thing about this whole 3 Billboards? This whole 3 Billboards win, and I think this is what adds insult to injury, especially with your point of view, Daniel, is that I think that, you know, especially, you know, a group of like the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, by rewarding this, they think they are celebrating the right side of that issue of race. And I think that's what's like, it's bad enough, you know, that it can be taken this way, but the thought that they have that they're celebrating the right idea is sort of like alcohol on the wound, kind of. I mean, that's got to be what it sort of feels like, and this could actually be a blessing in disguise for, you know, 3 Billboard haters, of which there are many, having gotten back from the soulless place that is our message boards. I can't believe I came out alive last year. You know, there are a lot of people that this could capitalize sort of backlash against it, and could pave the way.
I think I mentioned this to it might have been Tony or someone else at some recent point, that it actually, if 3 Billboards win, this is the right time for it to win, because the criticisms of the way it tackles certain issues within it will be highlighted if it wins, and I think it probably will be.
Yeah. Is Three Billboards an adapted screenplay or original screenplay?
Original.
Original.
Well, so it'll be competing against Get Out.
And Lady Bird.
And Shape of
the Big
Water.
Sick, and The Big Sick, and The Shape of Water. Yeah.
And The Post. Or wait, is
Post is
Post
original.
okay.
And so is I, Tonya and Phantom Thread.
Yeah. I just think how Three Billboards and Get Out approach the issue of race are very different, and it'll be interesting to see them both in a screenplay race against each other.
And it'll go to the white chicks, so you know everything works out.
You mean Vanessa Taylor, co-writer of Is that who you're talking about? Yeah.
Read my mind, Zach. We are on. We are like
Emily Gordon. Yes.
This.
Zach, do you have something we haven't touched on yet that you'd like to delve in?
Well, I mean, it's just sort of I think I was probably the only person who held on to the idea that Christopher Nolan could possibly win for Best Director. And I mean, it's hard not to be it's hard to be disappointed in Del Toro winning for The Shape of Water, but I do kind of have this sort of sadness about me that it feels like, this great directorial achievement by Christopher Nolan is just going to be sort of ignored in a very large way. But again, I mean, Del Toro's speech was fantastic. He's a wonderful director. Shape of Water is an incredible movie.
At least Nolan's probably going to get nominated. Luca Guadagnino probably might not get nominated.
Oh my God!
To me, is a crime.
Yeah, I was shocked he didn't get nominated for the Golden Globe. I mean, I thought he was a shoo-in. But I think there's still a possibility for that guy just jumping ahead to the Oscars. There's still a possibility for that guy to get nominated.
I do.
They like to sneak in those foreigners every once in a while, but when you least expect it, your Fernando Morales, your Pedro Almodovar, your Michael Lee, Michael Haneke. So he fits in kind of that mold of those dirty foreigners sneaking into
stealing our job.
And foreign directors have
build my wall.
Foreign directors have won Best Director every year but one since 2010, and that was last year. Damien Chazelle was the only American since Catherine Bigelow to have won.
Well, funny enough, actually, 4 out of the 5 directors nominated are not from America. Nolan is English, and Del Toro is Mexican, and Ridley Scott is from England, and Martin McDonagh is from Ireland. So it's just that Spielberg, the lone representation for American filmmakers at the Globes.
Proving
it's really interesting.
Proving that Jewish people can still make it in this business.
I do think it is interesting that really we've spent barely any time tonight talking about Dunkirk or Call Me By Your Name, two sort of films that were big in Oscar conversations and will continue to be in the Oscar races and in awards discussion. But it definitely seems like in my head it's sort of Three Billboards, Lady Bird, Get Out as sort of the films that are starting to sort of rise to the very top of discussions. I've probably forgotten one or two. Okay, guys. Oh, and Shape of Water. That was the one. That was the one I sort of was forgetting. Anyway, I think we are done talking about the Globes. We'll see if there's any good fun tennis. As ASMR says, Luca gets in and Greta gets out. Is SEH221 says Big Sick is original screenplay. So a few people with different thoughts about who could get in. Boy, it's been a long night. We've had a 2-hour pre-show. We've had 3 hours of the Golden Globes, and now a bit more than an hour unpacking it all. And there is plenty more coming down the pipeline. Guild Awards, Critic Choice Awards, Oscar nominations, the Oscar Awards, and the place to follow it all is goldderby.com. So thanks to everyone who's joined the panel today. Tony, Charles, Daniel, Zach, Jack, Joyce, Riley, Tom.
Some guy named Tom.
Mark, yeah, some guy named Tom. Marcus.
Amanda.
If I forgot to say her. Denton was with us earlier. Andrew. Yeah, so thanks to everyone for your thoughts, insights, and analysis. Goldderby.com, the place to join the discussion on the forums, read blog articles and stuff unpacking the awards and predicting the awards, and also where you can make your predictions and compete against us, compete against the experts and editors. Thank you, everyone, for watching.